This is Don Beers, and this is Brick, Block, and Beers. I have with me today the lovely and talented Deb Bartolucci, who is our marketing director from the Masonry Association. And we're going to talk about some myths on energy efficiency in residential housing, and go over some questions and some that we've had on energy efficiency that might be enlightening if you're planning on building a house or insulating your house to get the most out of it. So one of the items that comes up regularly is on how much insulation is the proper amount of insulation. And Deb, I think you've got a question that has that we have on that.
I do, and actually we kind of get a few of these along the same lines with different parts of Florida. So this one is from a person in North Florida that wants to know, or says, I'm sorry, that their builder is recommending R20 insulation on their block home, and they're in North Florida, and they want to know if that's a good idea or not.
Well, R20 insulation is going to be much more insulation than it's cost effective to insulate with. We have a study. We're going to talk more about that at the end, but we just finished a study a couple of years ago on insulating and the levels of insulation with the Pacific Northwest laboratories. They're one of the top DOE laboratories in the country, and it was a really comprehensive study to get to the bottom of what is good insulation. Now, one of the problems when you're comparing insulation or talking about insulation is that you're really only insulating the exterior opaque sections of the wall, and that insulation has a limited value. There's other areas of the home where you get a larger bang for the buck. Your attic insulation is important because of the heat up in the attic. Your windows are important, particularly because of the solar gains through your windows. Your hot water heater is important because of the energy use in creating hot water. So as far as your heavy insulation in your walls, there's really a very limited amount of extra actual dollar value in your pocket that you can get from that. So when we take a look at what is proper insulation in the state of Florida, because we don't have a lot of differential between interior and exterior temperatures, even in northern Florida. You're not in Fairbanks, Alaska, and so you
it does
really
feel like
have
it today.
Yeah.
It's a little chilly here today. There's thus the sweater, but yeah.
But even
sorry,
okay. So yeah, and so Deb, what is the temperature outside today?
It's like probably 55 degrees, but it's damp, it's windy. I have a rule, I don't go outside if it's 50 degrees and under, and that happens sometimes up here.
So you probably haven't got really more than about a 20-degree differential between the interior and the exterior temperature. And the windy that you bring up is a big deal because that is the infiltration, and keeping the infiltration and the movement of air, taking where the heat actually leaves the house, that's a big deal.
So you're talking windows and things like that, doors.
The tightness of your windows and the tightness of your doors, and actually the other places, electrical boxes, etc., where you actually lose, and particularly on a windy day, is you lose a lot of that. So
yeah.
But getting back to the amount of insulation, even in North Florida, is that R4 to R8 is generally going to be for Florida, the maximum amount. If you're in Fairbanks, Alaska, you can justify R20. But if the temperature is 50 degrees above rather than 50 degrees below, you're probably pretty good with R4 to an R8. And we have an article that has some charts in it that that you can find online. It's called the 5 Myths. And so your actual savings, the most savings that you're going to get in the state of Florida from going from the nominal R4 to an R20 is probably about $100 a month in $100 a month. That's
A year.
$100 a year in energy savings. So it's really it's difficult to and impossible to justify the extra money for your extra cost.
Okay, so we kind of have a little jazzy video that explains that. Do you want me to play that?
Oh yeah, that's very cute video.
Yeah. All right, hold on. Let me see if I can get this to work. Technology. There we go. I don't know who they drew here, Don, but that doesn't look like anybody I know. Just FYI.
Well, I haven't got a mustache anyway, so
No, you do not. No.
the hair looks strangely similar.
It's only because you have glasses, Don, that you say that.
So going from no insulation to a nominal R4 Miami, it costs around $240 in insulation and saves you
$70 a year.
Yeah, $70 a year. So you can pay for that in 4 years. So that's not a bad bargain. So he's going to cover the house with a blanket of insulation. Going to take it up to R8, which probably for North Florida, the R8 insulation is not that bad of an idea.
Yeah.
But it's going to cost you $770, and it's going to be probably about a 10 to 15 year return on investment. So here's the R20. This is what the question is. What do we get when we just put the max? We're going to go from R8 right up to R20. And the problem is that extra insulation starts to become extremely expensive, and your return on investment is almost nothing. So an 80-year payback, nobody should make an investment that you're not going to get your money back for 80 years.
Especially since unless you bought that house in infancy, you're not going to see it.
Until you're as old as I am.
You're not going to see it. You're not going to see it.
It's a no-brainer. Yeah.
Yep. Probably not is the answer to that question. All right, that was our funnel video. Okay, you ready for another question, Don?
Sure. Let's see, what do
Okay.
they want to know?
This is also from someone who's building a new home. So it says, we are building a new home. I know that you can build in wood frame or CMU, but considering the wood frame with R13 insulation or CMU, which is more energy efficient?
Well, the thing that you have to remember is that we have operating for masonry in our advantage is weight, and that weight is equates in energy terms to what we call thermal mass. And thermal mass is where it simply stops the energy from coming through until the temperature changes on the outside and tends to mitigate the amount of energy that's actually moving through the house. So thermal mass is real. If you take a look at the actual energy savings going from a R13 wood frame to R4, you're probably limited to, I think it's $18 per year in North Florida to $15 per year in the Orlando, and that's because in the daytime it's hot. Temperature drops in the evening, and the energy hasn't made it through the wall and is wicked back out to the outside. So the maximum energy that we have is energy difference. I think Miami is around $50 a year, and so you're really not going to make a determination on what kind of home you're going to build on a $50 a year difference. And not only that, but particularly in South Florida, where you have that $50 a year, is you also have 60 inches of rainfall a year,
Right.
and that rainfall tends to cause seepage into your walls. So you're going to end up with mold. You're going to end up with wet insulation, which is really going to take that away pretty quickly.
Can I ask you a question about thermal mass? Does concrete block have its own inherent thermal mass because it's concrete block? And if it does, is there an R value that you could attach to that?
Yeah, if you just take a look at it, I mean, we pretty much just did the difference in R value between the thermal between the R4 insulation in the masonry and the R13 is an advantage of almost 9 whatever R values, or 9 points for R value, which is not really the way it works, but you could say that is it's worth 3 times the thermal mass is actually worth 3 times the insulation.
And you that's because of the material it's made out of, et cetera, et cetera.
It's because of the weight of the concrete. Yeah, it's a function of the mass or weight of the wall system. So you actually get the same, you get a similar value from timber, heavy timber, log cabins, which you're not going to build a log cabin. So unless you're doing something in the woods. So
we're going back to Alaska again.
we have a few log cabins in Florida. I think you'd probably be more efficient to build with masonry.
Okay, all right, very good. Okay, and this is an interesting one because I've actually never seen anyone do this, so I'm kind of curious what the answer to this question is. This last person wants to know, I've heard that insulation on the exterior of a block wall is much better as far as energy efficiency. Is that true? And I kind of was thinking about the logistics of that. Wouldn't you insulate inside and then, well, I don't know. Better question for you, Don, than me.
Well, I think you pretty much got it figured out. Is yes, you normally put your insulation. The easiest way to insulate block is to put your insulation on the inside of the structure. We've always had the technical discussion of the value of the insulation when it's on the outside rather than the inside. The actual energy code in Florida does give an advantage to putting the insulation on the outside. And so we, with the PNNL study, we know what that difference is.
How, I guess this is just a logistics question, but how exactly would you insulate the exterior? Would that be if you were building a double white wall, then you would have some insulation on the exterior? Or is there a way that people would have a concrete block wall and then put insulation and then what, stucco? I mean, how does that, how would that even work?
It's the way it works is that you have a masonry wall. You actually need a water barrier, either some kind of a secondary barrier to block the water on the masonry. Then you need to put wire lath over that to create some kind of paperback lath. You're actually going to create a drainage space in between. And then you're going to put stucco on the outside of that. Overall, for like a 2,000 square foot house, you're going to be like $4,000 out of pocket by the time you finish all that.
And especially in a place like South Florida, which I'm hearing is going to get a whole bunch of rain again in the next couple of days. That looks like the rain there is going to be ridiculous. But something like that, if you had exterior insulation on a block wall, and then you did wire lath and stucco, et cetera, if you had a crack in that stucco, wouldn't that mess up all of your insulation? I mean, wouldn't that create a whole other set of problems?
What the problem with the crack in the stucco, which you have to assume that it's already there, is your water penetration. Right. You're going to get water past your stucco into the space because you've created a actual drainage area between your block wall and the back of your stucco, and which is a real problem. You have to have a weeps at the bottom to make sure
right.
that water can get out. It doesn't affect, like I say, it doesn't affect your insulation. as much as it affects your actual waterproofing of the wall itself. It is
Right.
just a much more difficult way to build, and the advantage of it is probably in the going from insulation on the inside, insulation on the outside, even for your R8 insulation, which is about the maximum you want to use, is that you're only going to get about $50 difference. So yes, it does make a difference. No, it is it's just not worth it. For $4,000, there's no payback.
Right. There's no payback as far as on a return on your investment. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. And is there any other myth about energy that you want people to know about? I know we have other things that we discuss. Is there anything else that you can think of?
Well, I think it just is the standard insulation for masonry. If you're building a masonry home, your insulation's on the inside. A nominal amount of insulation. You can do the foil back in between the furring strips. As that is pretty standard. It's going to get you the insulation. It's going to pay you back across the state of Florida. In northern Florida, you might want to add just a little bit more insulation. A lot of times they'll put a board insulation in between the furring strips or just use a little bit larger furring strip, and that's really all the insulation that you need for a masonry home in Florida. Again, you go north and you get a larger differential between the inside and the outside. But we live in Florida. This is where our market is. This is where we're talking about is Florida. And in Florida, that nominal insulation gets you everything that you want. And I think the thing to remember about wood frame, I mean, we're having this discussion and we're focusing on energy, but masonry has a lot of advantages in Florida. I mean, the hurricanes, the difference in performance of hurricanes of masonry and wood has been pronounced since Hurricane Andrew. We saw the damage from Hurricane Andrew, and
Right.
mold isn't a problem with masonry. Masonry is not a food source for mold. Fire, I mean, when you factor your insurance into it, the insurance companies know the difference, and you can have anywhere from $150 to almost $500 difference in your insurance rates.
I've seen that personally, so I know. I think you just picked our topic for our next podcast, Don. I think we need to talk about hurricanes. I know hurricane season's over, but maybe we ought to get a jump on it, get it ready for next year.
There you go. We'll be ready.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you.
What about what about the reports, Don? We have some interesting stuff, and you did a pretty extensive report on Florida, and then there's also, I think, maybe 100-page report that goes over the national numbers. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we have a report that was put out by PNNL on the research that covers in depth all of the factors that went into it. 27,000 different runs of the top computing system for calculating energy efficiency for residential. So all of that information is included in the PNNL report, and we also have a condensed Florida report that I did. In case you didn't want to wade through the PNNL report, we have a Florida report, and then we also have condensed down a little bit more than that is the 5 energy myths that's available also. So
right, and all of those things are available on floridamasonry.com. So, well, Don, I think that's it. Unless you have something else.
Been a pleasure, Deb. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate you answering all of my energy questions.
Okay.
Me and my friend. All right. Thanks, Don. Have a great one.
You too. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.